We will be starting the session now. Let me quickly brief what we did last time, and we had a little mishap that the Zoom did not work as expected in the last session. So I uploaded a pre-recorded previous session for you regarding the 4-element meditation. And quick recap is like we were trying to do the mindfulness at 4 levels, to practice at 4 levels. The mindfulness at the level of the body was what we were discussing last time. And today we will be moving on to the mindfulness on the sensations or the feelings of the body. And also we will be moving to mindfulness of the mind itself, which we call mental states. We will try to cover that area today. And so first session today will be recap on 4-element meditation, which we had, which we could not complete last time. And depending on the time, we will touch upon the touch upon the feeling part of it. In the second session, we will really move on to discuss mindfulness on the feelings, and then we'll do a session, practical session there. After that, to the end of the second session, we will have the quiz time. Thereafter, in the third session, we'll be starting with the mental states. So under the mindfulness of the body, we were having 6 meditations. Most of it we covered now, and the 4-element meditation was one of them, where a quick summary of what we did there was that internal parts of the body, normally we have perception about our body using our color perception, sound perception, smell, taste, touch, feeling, like that. Combination of these will be in the mind as a mental formation about yourself, your own body. Same way, you have mental formations about what is there outside, like trees, mountains, sky, everything is a combination of these things, blend of these things in the mind, called a mental formation. Right. What we did in that meditation, we simplified the mental formation by not considering color, sound, smell, taste, or any of these things. Instead, we let go of them and focus only on first the solidity, the hardness part of everything, which is kind of a property rather than matter, property of the matter, the solidity. So we focused on the solidity of the body as well as the solidity of everything outside, and try to understand that with respect to solidity, you can demarcate between outside and inside. So it's one common solidity everywhere, so that the selfless nature of the body can be perceived using that approach. So the idea was to go in steps where we increase what we perceive as solidity using the mental volitions, increase the solidity perception of the body and outside. Like this, one more step like that, more solidity, then the color, smell, taste, that kind of perceptions we let go. So slowly the color will vanish, and the solidity property will be remaining in your mental formation. When that happens, your feelings towards that also will change. Right? So that was about the solidity until everything becomes common, outside versus inside. That demarcation becomes difficult when we let the mind do volitions in this direction. Basically, it is to let go of the mind the full ownership of the body. Otherwise, the mind is heavily burdened with the ownership of the body. Full responsibility of the body is lying on the mind, and as a result, the mind gets burdened. During this meditation, at least during that particular time, we want to let go of that burden, let the body be part of the nature. So no demarcation between outside versus inside, everything together. So the solidity outside and solidity inside are both one common thing, and it does not belong to anyone. So you let it belong to the nature rather than you taking the ownership, and that reduction of responsibility, the level of ownership during that meditation give a lot of relaxation to the mind. That was the idea. We do the same with the liquidity as well. So here, sorry, one more thing. Until the solidity is identified as the earth element, which is boundless. I mean, you can't put a boundary between your body and outside with respect to solidity. It is one common boundless earth element. That's how we perceive. Same way, in the second step of the meditation, we concentrate on the liquidity. By letting go of these things, we focus only on the liquidity, and then increase the perception of liquidity within and outside until you perceive that the liquidity is a common thing in the nature, boundless water element in the nature. So liquidity perception could slowly remove the color, smell, taste, and what you have perceived from your five senses, you are slowly removing or giving up during this meditation until the common property called liquidity remains outside and inside. Okay, like last time, if you have questions, you can ask by voice directly. I will not be disturbed. And if you don't like that, you can put that into the chat, which I will be disturbed a little to read the chat. But anyway, it's okay, right? Okay, so liquid property. Finally, you lose the color also and let the liquidity be a common, boundless water element in the whole world, whole universe. That relieves the burden of ownership of materials within the body for that duration of meditation, until the boundless water element is carefully or well perceived by the mind. Then, as the third step, again we let go of these things and focus on the heat, internal heat, external heat, and heat element. When you perceive heat has no color, no smell, and so color, smell, taste, that kind of perceptions we let go because they are not needed to perceive the heat, and let the heat outside and let the heat inside be understood as one common fire element, one common fire element which remain everywhere, boundless fire element, and that fire element also does not belong to me or you or anyone. Right? It belongs to the nature. And we let go of the ownership and the responsibility during the meditation, responsibility of the heat. Right? Okay, next, as the first step, what we did was, again, we focused the element called motion, known as the air element. And outside, lots of movements are there in the air and in the molecules, electrons, lot of things are moving. Inside also, lots of movements, even the breathing and food digestion, and so many activities within the body, blood circulation, perspiration, and all that is little motion. So we equate the air element outside to air element inside, and we lose that perception of color, smell, because even these motions do not have any color. Like air does not have any color. Same way, movements we perceive without color, smell, taste, etc. So until the movements outside and movements inside are equated, and the mind finally perceived boundless air element everywhere. Okay, so that is what was done in that last video. Of course, we could not do it together, but I hope you use the video I uploaded to practice that. And this particular meditation gives a lot of relief and remove restlessness from the mind, and the burden of trying to control everything, trying to own the body. All that is temporarily removed from the mind to give a lot of relaxation to the mind at the end of the meditation. Well, if this needs a lot of practice, of course, because this involves temporarily removing all your perceptions of color, smell, taste, touch, and everything, which is very hard because the mind has, by now, your minds would be heavily believing on color and taste, smell, and all that, which you have got from five senses. So therefore, initially very tough, but with practice, you will find it will become one of the best meditations, which give concentration very easily later. For those who find it difficult initially to start with, I would suggest another method, which is, of course, not the real meditation, but a way of thinking to help reach the real meditation. Therefore, it's like a little way out for us to for us to begin this meditation, where you can use certain amount of the science knowledge that you have obtained in the class in order to go by this method. To understand that there are simply different degrees of solidity, liquidity, heat, motion in atomic level or subatomic level, whatever the lowest level you can perceive using your mind, you can let the mind concentrate using that knowledge. But a warning again, because this is not the real meditation. Real meditation is not using any scientific thing, knowledge to train the mind. Instead of we use the science of the mind itself. What I mean is this, the mind, perceptions of the mind, you can change at will, and those don't belong to the laws of materials. Therefore, you can remove your perceptions of what you have got from material world, those perceptions, using volitions you can remove. That is the law of the mind actually, because more you think of a certain way, the mind will slowly bend towards that. So in this method, you use this knowledge which you might have gained to get it a start, give it a start, where although you see color, smell, and all that you perceive, we have learned that the materials in the body as well as the materials outside the body, they are made of atoms and subatomic particles like electrons, neutrons, protons, and even subatomic particles as for the knowledge of the science at present. Right? So solids, liquids, gases, as well as heat, we already know certain scientific principles behind them. You can use them to develop a way of thinking to reach the start of this meditation. Like, for example, if we take this formation of ice, we know it's water, but right in this form, it has a lot of hardness. Liquidity you can see, you can perceive, hardness you can perceive, heat is lowered, heat element is lowered in such a way that hardness increases, the earth element increases here, and the water element or the liquidity is reduced. But the same thing, if you increase the heat element slowly, suppose you heat, heat element increases further, but solidity goes down, liquidity goes up. Slowly, you will find the ice will continue to form water again, like this. So this is one form of water, this is another form of water, where our perceptions are very different. Here the solidity is high, here the liquidity is high, heat also is high. Then further heating will make the water be like a vapor, where the motion is much higher in the atoms. So motion has been increased further. Liquidity, solidity perceptions are going down when you perceive this kind of water vapor. So although it's the same material, you can see it can change the state by giving different perceptions to the mind. So at that level, if I give you another example, suppose you consider leaves of a tree like this, we can perceive hardness there. But we know a tree leaf also consists of certain solidity, certain liquidity, certain amount of heat, and certain amount of internal motion as well. For example, to investigate whether the four qualities are present in something like this in the nature, suppose you blend it, and then you can easily see the water element out of it. This way, you can separate it to elements. And finally, you can understand that although it appears as a leaf, it consists of the four elements. And if you keep focusing to atomic, subatomic levels, let's say we take a leaf like this, and then suppose we zoom in to see the details of what is there. And if you zoom in on a leaf, you can see more details like this, which were not perceived earlier when you look at it from a distance. Now mind can perceive the tea leaf in a different way. Zoom further, you lose certain amount of color. That greenery is not there anymore. And the color, smell, and all those perceptions will change at a different zoom level. Then zoom further, you will lose all that color and everything, and it will be the atomic structures. Atomic structures. And zoom further, it will be subatomic elements like electrons, protons, neutrons, which you will not have any color, smell, or anything. So those perceptions you got from the five senses change now. And a completely different perception will be there. So what I'm saying is that at different zoom levels of anything, even a simple thing like a leaf of a tree, the perception of the mind is driven into a different level where attached to that perception, you will have a different feeling, different volitions. This is what this particular meditation help us to train. Even if you take a part of the body like blood, for example, if you zoom out like this, you see red color. But you know, when you zoom in, it's not red anymore. Right? The color is gone. And different perception completely. And further zooming, you can again go to atoms, again go to subatomic levels, and like that. So what we put as earlier we understood as body parts. Remember the previous meditation, we perceived the body as consisting of parts. But this time we lose that, we remove that perception of the parts, like putting everything together into, well, don't try these things, right? This is only to understand how the mind perceives things, right? So suppose you put everybody in the batch together and take out the meat like this, and then zoom in, again atomic structures, subatomic particles, all that, and will there be any ownership to anyone after that? Will there be the color, smell, and all the things that we perceive, will they be present at this level also? Because at this level we know when it is a proton or electron, we know certain amount of knowledge we have about its behavior and its motion. Well, what about its color? What about the smell of an electron? Whether the smell is in the flesh here or whether the smell is in the tree, where was it at this subatomic level? So you will find that perception at this level becomes so different to the perception at the normal level of the input from the five senses. So what I'm trying to mean is that this perception is completely the sixth sense, the mind. Mind can perceive this because electron, the eye can't see, the nose can't smell. So the ear, nose, the tongue, body, and the other five can't perceive the electron. It can perceive, can be perceived by the mind, and the perception is very different. So finally, the internal space, you find lots of space between the atoms and the bonds. So you find, although you saw it earlier as hardness, so meat, now you find a lot of space inside that. Same way, your body could be decomposed to atomic level or subatomic level to understanding using mental volitions, right? Even the outside, not only the body, even the outside, you can decompose to subatomic levels. Although we see a lot of colors and nice, it gives nice sensation, nice feeling. You find if you remove color, it's very different. Right? With the color, the mind perceives with a lot of feelings. But now we remove color, the feeling goes down, little different. And if you zoom in further to each and every part, it will be atomic structures. where you find that everything, the trees, the horses, the humans, and everything are made of just atoms of the periodic table, and there are a very limited number of things in the periodic table. And those things don't actually belong to anybody, they belong to the nature. So further zooming in, well, if you can perceive all the atoms in a scene like this, then you can immediately experience a change of perception in the mind about the surroundings, about the body. So here, what we are trying to do is that we try to understand whether it's this body or whether it's anything outside. It's all atoms of the periodic table, which belong to the nature. It does not belong to anybody personally. And then at the subatomic level, all those particles again are parts of the nature. So we can use that idea to let go of the ownership and the responsibility of the body from the mind. This is another idea. The thinking like this in the meditation is to shift the cognition or shift our perception to seamlessly blend or mix this material body with the whole external material world. The demarcation between this body and the material world, that demarcation is a perception. That perception could be removed during the time of this meditation. That way, the qualitative identity of one's own body as part of the boundless natural environment can be achieved. Our own body, although we own it with heavy responsibility of maintaining, we find that it's actually a part of the natural environment, leading to realization of the selfless nature of the material reality. And that is the summary of that meditation, which we could not do fully last time. Idea is to relieve the mind from the burden of ownership of material body, leading the mind to relaxation. Initially, basic relaxation. Then if you continue with this meditation, you can get the mind to concentration level, samadhi. And if you further develop it, you can get the mind to absorption levels known as dhyana, which we will be discussing later, not today. Okay, that's the summary of the things that we missed last time due to the problem we encountered. Any questions about this change of perceptions by this particular meditation before we move on to another? No, okay. So if we have time, if the time permits, we will do a meditation session also on this meditation again. But since the time seems to be limited, I will move on at the moment. But later on, we might be able to find time. By the way, the questions in the forum was not there. I put two fora. One is questions about the theoretical explanations. The other is questions about the practical, questions about your practice. There were several questions about the practice, but the theoretical explanations, no one has asked any question. It could be that you ask the questions here in the class itself, but you can use that feature if you want, because it's there in the Moodle anyway. Okay. We will move on to the next level, next level of mindfulness, which is the second level, mindfulness meditation on feelings. There is another word for these feelings because it does not really represent the idea. In Sinhala, we call it vindhim or vedana. But some books in English identify that as by a different word called sensations. So therefore, you can think of this as mindfulness meditation on feelings or sensations, whichever the word you like. Whichever the word give you a better meaning about this, you can use there. Where are we? Out of the 4 levels, we are here. Now we assume that we have finished enough meditations on mindfulness of the body. Different ways of becoming mindful of the body we have discussed now. Now we are going to discuss how do we develop, how do we become mindful of what we feel. What we feel. Well, this is how we are going to do this. Become aware of what you feel when the feeling occurs as it is at the very present moment. Suppose you feel something, suppose you feel you get a pleasant feeling at certain place of the skin. Assume you get a pleasant feeling at a certain place of your skin, maybe hand or palm. Then you become aware immediately at that moment, okay, there is this pleasant feeling on the palm right now. And likewise, what you feel, you recognize and purposely become aware, okay, this is what I am feeling right now. So it's very simple idea actually, but practice is not that simple. One reason is that unlike the body, feelings, they cannot be, they are not tangible. They cannot be seen. You can just feel it. Therefore, maybe little more training is necessary uh, whenever we develop mindfulness on intangible things. Okay. When we focus on what we feel, now one thing to be very careful is to detach any emotion attached with the feeling. Feeling or sensation, what you get is different to the emotion resulting from it. Emotion could be anger, emotion could be sensual desire, and it's a very different thing. Feeling is not that. Therefore, you have to carefully exclude the emotion part or remove the emotion part from the feeling when you become aware. So some very important point there. Just become aware of the bare feeling or bare sensation separated from the attached emotion to it. For example, suppose you get a unpleasant feeling on the body, for example. Suppose body is hurting. Due to something, body is hurting. As a result, you might get an emotion of, emotion could be the aversion, a dislike. The feeling is one thing, the emotion, aversion or the dislike is another thing. So we just understand, try to identify this is an unpleasant feeling, but we separate the aversion attached with that. In our normal living, feeling and the emotion seems to come, they are so tightly coupled and they seem to come together and they look like the same, but they are not the same. They are not the same. With practice, you can separate the feeling from the resulting emotion. How do we classify the bare feeling then? Now, we identified earlier that the feelings have to be classified, and we use very simple classification. In this, we just classify that very bare feeling as okay, this is a pleasant feeling to the mind. This is unpleasant. This is neutral. And usually, coupled with a pleasant feeling, you will have the emotion of sensual desire. You will have the emotion of sensual desires. Coupled with unpleasant feeling, you will have the emotion called aversion. Therefore, you've got to be very careful uh, to detach the sensual desires or aversion from these two feelings, pleasant or unpleasant feelings. Just note, okay, there is an unpleasant feeling here. There is a pleasant feeling here. No reaction about that by developing any emotion on top of that. So refrain from the emotions. Be a neutral observer of the bare feeling. That is what has to be done there. Okay. Well, how can the feelings arise? These bare feelings. You know, bare feelings arise from your body. When the body touch with something, there could be pain, and that will be one unpleasant feeling. So that kind of touch we call, in meditation theory, we call it a contact. We call it a contact. Contact can happen to the body. A contact can happen to the ear. We call it ear contact. When a sound hits the eardrum, there is an ear contact happening there. I think you have guessed. Eye contact is also possible when the eye is coming in contact with the picture. The nose contact with the smell. Likewise, feelings arise from a contact. Contacts could be body, and contacts could be mind also, because sometimes, suppose your body is not touching anything, you are not focused on the body, but you remember something. You remember, let's say you remember some very unpleasant situation that you faced, and the moment you remember, it is the mind becoming active, and it's a mental contact happening. Due to a mental contact, again, your mind can get a pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, or neutral. In that case, you will get unpleasant feeling in that example. The single word may be more enlightening there. With respect to the body, pleasant feelings are called sukha. Actually, it's Pali, sukha. Unpleasant feelings called dukkha. Neutral feelings are called adukkama sukha. That means neither sukha nor dukkha, likewise. Shall I repeat? With respect to the body, right? Not with respect to mind. With respect to the body, pleasant feelings are called sukha. Sapa kila kiwat kamagne, sukha. Unpleasant feelings are called dukkha. Neutral feelings with respect to body are called adukkama sukha in Pali. Right? With respect to mind, when you remember something which has no touch with the body, then when you get a pleasant feeling in the mind like that, you call it somanasa. Manasa sapasahagata una කියන idea එක තියෙන්නේ. It's called somanasa. When you get an unpleasant feeling of what you remember, you call it domanasa. When you get a neutral mental feeling, you call it upeksha. So altogether 6, isn't it? For the body, sukha, dukkha, and adukkama sukha. For the mind, somanasa, domanasa, and upeksha. Hope it is more clear that way, right? So feelings can arise from the body or from the mind. Therefore, physical feelings are there, commonly called sensations, and the mental feelings are there. Physical feelings can be pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Mental feelings could also be pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. In the physical level, sukha, dukkha, dukkhama sukha is there. In the mental level, somanasa, domanasa, and upeksha are there. I'm sure you have experienced all six, no doubt about it. Right now also you are experiencing some physical feelings, some mental feelings, so it's continuous. And we are so familiar about these sensations. Okay, then in the meditation of mindfulness on feelings, there is another classification to this for meditators. This is how meditators classify feelings. First, one category known as mundane feelings or worldly feelings. Worldly feelings that could be pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. They are with respect to the body or the mind, right? Pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral with respect to the body or the mind of this world, which is called worldly feelings. Well, are there any feelings which are not in this world or unworldly feelings? There are for the meditators. Well, which later we are going to talk about what are called higher mental states known as absorption levels. Those absorption levels, when we push the mind or when we drive the mind to an absorption level, the feeling you get mentally, this time it's all mental feelings are not from basic smell or basic color, basic taste from this world. It's the mind experiencing a feeling from a mental object, from a mental image. Mental image, such feelings experienced by the mind are called unworldly feelings in meditation terminology. Some of you may have had experiences, some of you may not. So later we are going to talk about those absorption levels where I will try to highlight these feelings further. Strangely, unworldly feelings, usually they seem to be pleasant, usually, but there are unpleasant and there are neutral feelings at that level as well. So, I'm sure you are very familiar with these things, worldly things. Maybe this is an unfamiliar territory for most of our minds, most of your minds. But later in the absorption level discussion and those meditations, we will see on these things further. But let me give some ideas about it. We now know worldly and unworldly. To get two levels are there, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, like this. These worldly feelings arise when you are in pursuit of the worldly things or worldly pleasures. What are the worldly things or pleasures? That's going after colors. I mean, for the colors, we have certain likings, dislikings. So when you normally go after the colors you like, so when you are in pursuit of things like worldly colors and smell, taste, and the physical touch, the things you can get from the five senses of this body, five senses here, when you are in pursuit of those things, those pleasures, we call them worldly feelings. Suppose you let go of your interest of those five, like ear, eyes, nose, tongue, and the body, and you use your mind only. You use your mind only to do the volitions, which are called mental volitions only. Then the other unworldly feeling side will open up. That side will open up. Let me highlight it further. Before that, worldly pleasant feelings they are usually associated with your desires, wanting more pleasures. So when you get the colors you like, the taste you like, you get worldly pleasant feelings. I'm sure you have lots of experience about that. What about the unpleasant worldly feelings? I mean, there are unpleasant colors, unpleasant taste, unpleasant smell, lots of experiences, isn't it? So your unpleasant feelings are usually associated with aversion or resentment. This is the emotion. This is the emotion. This desire is the kind of emotion here. But pleasant, unpleasant feeling is to be detached from the emotion to become mindful about. Neutral is associated with delusion and ignorance. So these things, I think you are very familiar. Pleasant feelings are giving rise to sensual desires. Unpleasant feelings of color, taste, smell, and those things are giving rise to aversion. Neutral feelings giving rise to delusion and ignorance. Delusion means you feel neutral, but you don't know why. The reasons, the causes of why the neutral feeling arose are hidden to your mind or not comprehended. Then you call it a delusion or ignorance. Well, simply, if I put this other side, if I explain this other side, is that when you let go of these worldly pleasures, your mind will be shifted to a different gear. They arise. These unworldly feelings only arise when you let go of worldly things or worldly thoughts. When such thoughts subside in the mind is left with the unworldly feelings, which means it is naturally there, but it's fully covered by these worldly feelings. If you let go of the worldly things or thoughts, the other one will unearth. The unworldly feelings will be experienced. One good example I can give is that last meditation we did, the four element meditation. Four element meditation let go of color, let go of taste, smell, uh, let go of all five uh, perceptions of the senses, and use the mind to perceive the earth element, the liquidity, solidity, heat, and motion. So that's a different level of perception where you can get these unworldly feelings. Well, that particular meditation, if you practice well, you will get unworldly pleasant meanings. Unworldly pleasant meanings while you are in that meditation. Okay. Hope these two are fairly clear now. What is the category called worldly feelings and the category called unworldly feelings? Each of us have the ability to feel these unworldly feelings, provided that we are ready to exercise the mind and train it towards that direction. Okay, any questions about what has been discussed so far about the feelings? We are going to do this meditation after the break. A little more to explain. After that explanation, we will do it together. Any preliminary questions? No. Okay. Maybe you will get questions during the break, having time to think, isn't it? Okay, we'll break here. I'll end this session. We'll meet again 9:15, right?